1956. On a peaceful July morning off the coast of Nantucket, America awakens to a shocking scene.
We're sinking for you about 500 feet over the Atlantic. In the distance, the wreckage of the Andrea Doria, listing at about 45-degree angle.
How could this have happened to a modern ocean liner engineered using lessons learned from the Titanic? Was it a failure of technology or human error? And for the ones who survived, how did they make it through the night? July 17th, 1956. The Andrea Doria departs Italy on her 101st journey across the Atlantic. She sails for New York under Captain Piero Calamai, an experienced and respected veteran of the sea. The Doria is his pride and joy. In the competitive world of transatlantic cruise lines, the Andrea Doria stands apart. She is not the largest ship afloat, nor the fastest, but she is said to be the most beautiful. She is a floating gallery of the boldest works of Italy's artists, commissioned especially for her halls and staterooms. Life on the Doria is a whirl of glamour and sophistication, where the party never ends. Passenger Liliana Duner spends her free time at the pool. She's an outgoing and beautiful woman, an Italian war bride going to join her husband in America. She's traveling with their 3-year-old daughter, Marianne. Liliana is an accomplished swimmer.
I win quite a few medals in Italy. Yeah, you know, I am a good swimmer. Very good, thank God.
Pat Mastrancola is returning with his mother and sister from visiting relatives in Italy. He's 9 years old and cruising for trouble.
A 9-year-old boy gets very bored. So you go exploring in all the areas of the ship that you're not supposed to be in. Getting up into cabin class was a challenge. They had that blocked off. So every opportunity I would climb up the railings, and I'd always be caught. Every time I managed to just come over the railing and think I was in, there'd be somebody to go back down.
14-year-old Linda Morgan has been living with her family in Europe. She's coming to America to attend school, traveling with her stepfather, Camille Cinfara, her mother, Jane Cinfara, and her half-sister, Joan.
They had wanted to book cabins near the front of the ship, but those cabins were not available. There was a late-minute change in the cabins, somebody moving out of those, so these people were allowed to move into cabins, I believe it was 52 and 54, and those became two of the most critical spots on the entire ship.
It's a leisurely voyage. The weather is clear and the seas are calm.
2 days before we come to New York, I dreamed Andrea Doria was sinking. In the morning when I get up, I was very nervous. I can't eat. They said, why you don't eat? I said, oh, I don't feel good. I have a very horrible dream. And I told about the dream. The following night, I have the same dream. Then I was very afraid.
Wednesday, July 25th. The Doria is due to arrive in New York early tomorrow morning. Another passenger liner, the Stockholm, is leaving New York, bound for Sweden. Late that afternoon, the Andrea Doria enters dense fog. Captain Calamai should cut his speed, but experienced captains rarely do, especially on ships equipped with radar. He slows her a little, but not enough to make his passengers late. That evening, they enjoy one more fabulous Italian dinner. Later, some people return to their cabins to pack and go to bed early. Others stay up to enjoy the last night on board.
I went down and I got dressed nice, my evening dress.
We had went to a movie in a dining room.
It was the last night out. I didn't think about going to bed early at all.
Beverly and Alfred Green want to have one last drink with friends.
I was with Jean and Donald Ruth, and I begged them to come up to the Belvedere Lounge and have a farewell drink with us. They wanted to pack, but I convinced them to join us. And I also asked the Carlins, Colonel Carlin and his wife, but they declined.
The Ruths stay for drinks, but the Carlins return to their cabin. Like so many casual choices made that night, their decisions will mean the difference between life and death. The Andrea Doria is making good time. Now less than 10 hours from New York, she's entering some of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. On the outbound Stockholm, Captain Nortenson makes a last check of the bridge, then retires to his cabin. He leaves Johan Carstens Johansson, a young third officer, in command. 10:40. The Doria's Captain Calamai sees a ship on his radar. He determines she's 17 miles away and to his north.
I can make myself comfortable. I know I can't stay to this party. And I said to Mrs. Cavallina, I have to go check on my daughter.
10:48. The Doria appears on the Stockholm's radar. Third Officer Carstens calculates she's 12 miles away and to his north. (11:06). Still believing the Doria is to his north, Carstens orders a 20-degree turn to the south. He's then called away to answer the phone. When he returns moments later, he faces a horrifying sight. The hull of the Doria suddenly appears through the fog. Desperate, Carstens orders full speed astern and a hard turn to starboard. At the same time, Captain Calamai sees the Stockholm. He tries to outrun her with a hard turn to port. But it's too late.
I don't know what happened. I was thinking it was an explosion.
There was a tremendous impact, and the boat just went like that.
Projector goes over, screen goes over, an avalanche with all this noise. Now you're on the low side of the ship against the wall with furniture piling on top of you.
The Stockholm has penetrated 30 feet into the side of the Doria, killing passengers in their rooms instantly. No one yet knows the extent of the damage, nor how many people have died.
My cabin was demolished. It was right in the hole.
Jean and Donald Ruth's cabin was also destroyed.
The Ruths would have definitely been lost if they hadn't come with us for farewell drinks. Their room was right in the middle of the crash.
The Carlins, who had declined drinks and gone to bed, weren't so lucky.
We saw Colonel Carlin staggering up alone, and he told my husband that he was in one part of the stateroom and his wife was in bed reading, and when the crash came, she was washed out to sea, and he was helpless. There was nothing he could do.
The rooms belonging to Linda Morgan and her parents take a direct hit from the Stockholm's bow.
Her half-sister was thrown into the ocean and killed immediately. Her stepfather survived for a matter of minutes and then died of horrible injuries. Her mother was trapped in the wreckage for hours.
Another passenger reports seeing Linda's body float out to sea.
People started to come up from below. They had no clothing on, so we tore down the drapes and wrapped them around the people.
I got just a half a slip. I'm naked. The poor man gave me a jacket. He said to me, listen, lady, I give you this jacket. If you ever get to New York with my jacket, please give them back to me.
The cause of the collision will haunt Captain Calamai for years. But there's no time to think about it now. The Doria is listing dangerously, and he must get his passengers off the ship. But there's a problem.
All of the lifeboats on the upper side, the high side, were at too severe an angle to be lowered. They were useless. Captain Calamai up on the bridge found out about this almost immediately, that half of the lifeboats could not be used. He therefore did not want to make too many general announcements to that effect for fear of engendering panic in the passengers.
You sat there and you figured this is it. There's nowhere to go. No one's coming to rescue you. And now you're experiencing that terror. Now you're really starting to get scared.
Calamai sends out an SOS. The Coast Guard alerts ships in the area, and several respond. The Ile-de-France is 2 hours away from the Doria. The decision to help or not is up to her captain. He has a ship full of passengers bound for Europe, but he decides to turn his huge liner around. The Doria's terrified passengers wait aboard their slowly sinking ship, not knowing if they'll live or die.
The Ile-de-France had moved into position, but because of the fog, people couldn't see it. The captain of the Ile-de-France decided to turn on all of his outside lights so that the passengers could see. Just at that moment, like a curtain going up on a stage, the fog lifted. And there in front of all these people who thought they were doomed is this tremendous sight, this huge, beautiful ocean liner with like the Christmas tree lights strung on it and in blazing letters, Ile-de-France.
Now, other rescue ships gather and begin to launch lifeboats. The Stockholm joins them once her captain is confident she'll survive. The Doria's passengers wait on the low side of her slanting deck. Liliana Duner is among them with her daughter.
I said, okay. I said, now the lifeboat, they're coming. I said, if they see a child hanging, going down, they're going to come and get the kid. I said, come on, I forgot who was there. I said, give me a rope. I tried, you know, I was shaking.
Just as we got time to go down the rope, naturally we wanted my sister to go first. She got scared. Now, to give you an idea what the climate was like in the line waiting to go down the rope, these people, these adults, were yelling to throw my sister over the side.
Some passengers can't make the precarious climb down the ship's rope ladders. So Jerome Reinert and 3 other young men come to their aid.
And we would go down with a child across our arms in practically a laid-out position, 1 step at a time. And it was about 30 to 35 feet down to the lifeboat.
Reinert and his friends spend the next 3.5 hours carrying children and injured passengers to safety. Liliana Duner ties a rope around her daughter and begins to lower her over the side.
Put them down and put it down, and I'm go to look at her, you know, the ship was like that. I can see she's slipping off of this rope. I know drastically, but I know she will never make. I say, oh my God. I take the jacket off, threw him in the water, and I jump. I don't know who hit the water first. I hit the water, or Marianne hit the water. I know we went under. We went under a deep, I can tell you, honey. Far, I can tell. I know I got my daughter.
So now I'm going to show off. When my turn came to go down the rope, I was going to spiral down it. So I get on the rope, I do a half a spiral, and all of a sudden something hooks me from behind, and I let go of the rope. So now I'm hanging off the side of the ship from the back of my life jacket.
Another passenger unhooks Pat, and he climbs to safety. As Liliana struggles through the waves to reach a lifeboat with her daughter.
And I'm holding Marianne, you know, up on my shoulder. I got her figure if she slip, and I'm holding her. I got her hand in my mouth, you know, say, hold on.
Liliana makes it to a distant lifeboat and pushes her daughter into the arms of rescuers. Lifeboats slowly ferry survivors to the waiting rescue ships. But there are hundreds of people left on board, and the Doria continues to sink. It takes hours to row the Doria's stranded passengers to the various rescue ships, and climbing to safety is harder than they expect. Liliana Dooner is taken to the freighter Cape Ann.
But now we can go up on the Cape Ann. What do you call it, ladder? They put them down. They don't reach the boat. They reach them halfway. Now you're supposed to grab it there, hang on there, and somehow crawl up. But it was a big wave. Every time I say, my God, I don't die in Andrea Doria, I'm gonna die here. Finally, I get up in the ship, and I was a half naked.
Once I got aboard, I kind of let the breath out of my lungs and realized that I'd been holding it for about 3 or 4 hours, and I broke down, started to cry.
Early Thursday morning, the last survivors leave the Andrea Doria. They are the ship's officers. But Captain Calamai wants to go down with his ship.
He was just very sad. He would like to die, but he told that to me. He told me that was around 3 hours after the collision. He told me at a moment, if you go back to Genoa, say to my family that I did what I had to do.
Second Officer Badano convinces Calamai to leave the ship. From the rescue boats, the crew watches in sadness as the Andrea Doria sinks beneath the waves. That evening, the Ile-de-France arrives in New York Harbor with 753 survivors on board. Even now, no one knows how many have died. Anxious relatives await news of their loved ones. Among them is radio commentator Edward P. Morgan, Linda Morgan's father. Linda's mother, Morgan's ex-wife, is alive, though badly injured. She's been told by eyewitnesses that her husband and both her daughters are dead.
Good evening. Here is the
Not knowing Linda's fate, Morgan goes on the air.
Of the sinking of the Italian liner, the Andrea Doria.
In a sometimes rambling report, Morgan never mentions that his own daughter, Linda, is among the missing. It's not until the next evening, when the Stockholm finally limps into New York Harbor, that he learns the truth.
The Stockholm had rammed into the Andrea Doria right at the point where Linda was sleeping. But Linda was thrown from her bed on the Andrea Doria and landed on the wreckage of the Stockholm's bow, and forever after became known as the Miracle Girl.
Last night, as far as the world at large was concerned, a girl, age 14, nationality American, named Linda Morgan, was dead. She happens to be this reporter's daughter. But Linda is not dead. She was hurled, one can only deduce, by the impact from her bunk into the wreckage of the bow of the Stockholm, where she was found alive.
I went through a period of thinking that I needed to pay back for having lived and other people not, and so I was going to be a nurse. I appreciated the nursing care that I got in the hospital and realized how important it was to be nurtured. And then, of course, as I got older, I realized that maybe that wasn't exactly what I was put on this earth to do.
Finally, the facts are known. 51 people have perished in the collision, but 1,660 have survived. It is the largest peacetime rescue ever made at sea.
They immediately give the danger signal. What happened right after the collision?
Panic. No, I see my baby in the water. I jump for the ship. I take it off board. I jump on the ship. I go take my baby in the water 2 times. Take my baby in the water.
When I find my husband, I was happy. You know, I was happy. I was in America. I have my husband and my daughter. I was happy, but it was very sad happiness, really. You know, it was sad and happy.
Now the world wants answers. How could 2 ships, both equipped with radar, have collided? Who or what was at fault?
Gentlemen, no, I can't answer that. We have been helped.
To avoid massive insurance claims, the 2 shipping lines eventually accept equal blame for the collision, thereby implicating both captains. For Calamai, it's a wound that never heals.
He never went back to sea. He used to walk through the streets of his little Italian town and just kind of foggy and vague. And he never, ever spoke about the wreck of the Andrea Doria until he was on his deathbed, when he said to his daughter suddenly, "Is it all right? Are the passengers saved?" And he died.
Calamai dies 16 years after the sinking of the Doria, unaware of new research which could exonerate him. Several experts now believe the Stockholm's young officer misread his radar, causing the collision. But the debate continues. The tragedy of the Andrea Doria filled the news for a few weeks, but it changed the lives of her survivors forever.
I think up until that time, I felt immortal.
I didn't join the Navy, that was for certain.
I don't think that my mother psychologically ever recovered from it. She lost a daughter and a husband. The daughter, she never even knew what happened to her. And she ended up dying on the anniversary of the Andrea Doria.
I still love the water. Can take a day away from me.